one of the greatest in Panthers lore goes into the HOF, all I can say is, it's about time. One of the Panthers greats finally gets his gold jacket, and the Panthers finally make a huge swing in the rookie ring. These stories and more on this edition of Growlin' and Prowlin'. Welcome back, Growlers. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Again, you're joined by the one and only Mr. CeeLo, and I hope you guys are doing great, as I am doing awesome. Got to spend a busy day yesterday with my kiddos, and I am wore out, guys. And that it was cold too, so hope you guys are doing great. Hope if you're on this eastern side or in some parts of the central part of the state, you guys are staying warm, staying bundled up. But without further ado, I got to give a big growl out to Matal, who has joined the Growlin' and Prowlin' family. Welcome. Zah commented on my previous show, I remember you talked about Nick Emmanroy. Absolutely, I sure did. And this is going to be a consistent theme that we got to go through, you guys. We're going to have to, I don't want to say we, but I think ultimately when I look at what happened last year in the draft when we traded up for Nick Scorton, at some point we got to take a home run swing. The Falcons did it, and their defense improved exponentially, guys. They went from being right there with us in pass rush win rate as well as sacks, jumped all the way up to the top. And they gave away a lot. They did. But at some point, I will say the conservative approach, at some point, I know people are going to say, oh, look at Bryce Young. But here's the thing. Bryce is starting to pay off, and he would pay off a lot more if Dave Canellis would stop being conservative. That's neither here nor there. But let us discuss what I'm referring to. When Nick Emmanroy got taken, I think it was 39th by the Seahawks last year, I remember just throwing my hands up like this and saying, wow. And I think I said on this show, or either on my NFL All Access Network channel that I have, they're going to probably go to the Super Bowl. I'm dead serious, you guys. He's that kind of difference maker, and he's showing. Now, get it. Sam Darnold has had some parts to do with that. Jackson Smith-Njigba's had parts to do with it. But the thing that Nick Emmanroy brings to the party is his versatility. He's a 6'4", 6'5", 220-pound guy that runs like us cats, hits like a linebacker, and actually covers the ball very well. And I've said this on previous shows. He's the newer Kyle Hamilton. And we got a version of that on the team, y'all. Isaiah Simmons, anybody? Thank you so much, Zai. And he commented again, if they let Tommy Tremble leave, let's see, he will ball out on another team, just like Clavon Chason doing in New England. Well, I think that's kind of a different element there, Zai. I kind of disagree on that point, but I don't disagree that he'll ball out. He balled out. But I think that's a different topic for another conversation, because New England's got a bunch of guys that, in my opinion, they did something that they did not do under the previous regime, which only lasted one season. They spent the money. They spent the money. And when you actually go out and you spend the money and you put the pieces together, and free agency is supposed to be, you bring those last few pieces together that tie everything up. And see, Vrabel was the beneficiary of that. We can sit here and we can go round and around about when teams decide to spend money or why it is or why it is. That's not what this one's going to be about. But ultimately, I do think Chaisson did ball out. I just don't think K'Lavon Chaisson was right for us. I think it's about like, now the Sam Darnold situation is totally different. Now I know we're going off on a different path of where we started, but realistically, Sam Darnold wasn't utilized correctly. I totally don't think he was. But we also didn't have JSN on the team, and we didn't have Justin Jefferson on the team either. To me, Sam Darnold is a lot like Matt Stafford. If he gets a number one, that's who he's going to feed. And you have coaches that they game plan just for those guys. And I think ultimately that is what Dave Canellis was looking for in T-Mac. You see a lot of plays where Bryce is looking that way. It's not just Bryce, guys. Y'all got to realize something. The coaches call the plays. The coaches call the plays, and a lot of these plays are designed for T-Mac, Jalen Coker. And the problem is Dave Canellis wants to get away from having to spread the football around. It's much easier to try to game plan for two guys, maybe three. And that's why when I hear you guys talk about Tommy Tremble, this, that, and the other, look, when Tremble caught that ball in that Atlanta game, he was stopped. Or so we thought. So all this talk about Tremble this and Tremble that, you give Tommy Tremble the football, the guy runs just like he blocks. He ain't looking to run away from him. He gonna put hands on you. And then not to mention Ja'Tavion Sanders and Mitchell Evans. All three of these guys are good with the ball in their hands. So all y'all out there talking about these tight ends ain't cutting it, watch the film. Stop watching the games. In succession, that is. You can't sit here and just say, oh, well, you didn't do nothing this thing. Gat. Look at the game plan. Look at the totality of the game. Watch that Atlanta game, and it looked like Dave Canellis basically had the best coaching game of his life. People want to say it's the Rams game. I disagree. The Falcons threw a counterpunch, and Dave Canellis came back with another. And stop saying it's Bryce. A lot of this is on Canellis. Great comment as always, And then Derek said, just here to comment because I saw your title. Was it a horrible autocorrect or is it how you speak? Derek, if you'd watch the show, you'd know. I articulate exceptionally well. Maybe not perfect, but exceptionally well. And see, guys, this is what you have to deal with. You got people that come over here and they want to troll. They want to troll instead of sticking to the topic. But thank you for helping me correct it, because autocorrect is a beast sometimes. And I can be negligent at times. But thank you. But let's get into it, guys, as the great one, and arguably one of the guys that should be on the Rushmore, because here's reality. Everybody talks about Cam. Cam wouldn't have done nothing without Luke Kuechly. And that's all this talk about what he was surrounded with. Luke Kuechly only had 1, maybe 2 years where he was surrounded with guys that could actually understand the lingo that he was talking about. Luke Kuechly finally got his gold jacket. I'm going to go ahead and make a disclosure, you guys. I didn't want Luke Kuechly. I remember when the draft came. And if I recall, it was I'm trying to think. It was a defensive edge guy out of Clemson that I wanted. Because I was just really we knew we needed an edge guy, but then we also needed a linebacker. Kind of like where we are this year. And I had heard of Luke because being a Notre Dame fan, we played Boston College, and I knew just how dynamic he was and how he single-handedly kept his team afloat. He was just absolutely brilliant. But then I remember thinking, we need an edge guy. And then I remember we was at a place called Pickleberry. My brother and I, we were eating. No, that was CMC. We were at a place, we were at Applebee's. I want to say it wasn't Cleveland Farrell. I know it was somebody else. Clemson fans, help me out with the defensive edge guy. But I remember thinking to myself, golly, we got us a linebacker. And he turned out to be one of the greatest of all time. Now, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to say something that's really going to probably resonate with a lot of y'all. Luke should have got in last year. If Ray Lewis was a first ballot Hall of Famer and all he did was make tackles, knock people's heads off, Luke did that too. But the one thing that Ray Lewis didn't do that Luke Kuechly did do, I will never forget that, was it Sunday night? I think it was. I think it was a Sunday night game the Panthers had to have against Drew Brees. How many of you, if y'all remember this game, put it down in the comments, please. I have never loved to watch defensive football as much as I did when I watched Luke Kuechly out on the field. He was one of the greatest, if not the greatest, dissectors of an offense that I have ever seen. You could call him dissector, anticipator. It was like he had the force. You know, Luke Kuechly, Luke Skywalker. He was one with the force. I know. Dumb shit! Dumb shit! Dumb shit! I absolutely loved Luke Kuechly. Still do. Would love to interview him. Because, you know, for him, he reminds me a lot of my brother. My brother was a defensive edge guy coming out of high school. And we coached together in the smaller leagues. And it was amazing watching him. He reminded me so much of Luke Kuechly. He would be yelling at the kids where it's going, who's getting it. And about 90% of the time, he was right on it. Right on it. The ball would go exactly where he said it was, and he even got to the point where he had me out there figuring it out. Now, I only get it about 60 to 70% of the time. Every now and again, I would beat my brother to the punch. But I said that to say that a lot of Carolina's success on the defensive side of the ball was because of Luke Kuechly. Luke Kuechly's ability to know where it's going, and you'd see him attack the gaps on run plays like he just knew exactly where the gap was going to be created, and he just shot it. Now listen, this ain't filling the gaps, y'all. You know, a lot of times they teach you in football the linebackers are supposed to fill the gaps because that's where the running back's going to go. My nephew does a great job of doing that. But the way Luke Kuechly, especially when you see him hit stretch plays, most of the time they teach linebackers to get outside and try to contain it. Luke Kuechly would shoot right up into those gaps that they would leave between the blockers and his defensive cohorts. He'd shoot right into these gaps, make the tackle in the backfield. He was simply amazing. And in passing downs, you know, I don't need to say anything else. I mean, people will sit there and look at his sack numbers and they say, oh, that's not impressive. No, it's what Luke Kuechly's diagnoses would do. And when you go back and you look at, he played 118 games, you guys, and he had over almost 1,100 tackles in his career. 12 and a half sacks. You as a Panther fan, you know he's been gone this long. But, you know, it's hard to believe this greatness was only here for 8 seasons. And those concussions, gosh, I just really hate But what people really don't realize is it wasn't just the concussions that made Luke walk away from the game. If I recall, there was a interview I looked for and I could not find where he said he just was not reacting as fast as he once was. And that's the other thing. He said his mind was telling him where the ball was going. He just couldn't get there. He wasn't making the plays anymore. And I know that's got to be damaging for a guy of his ability and his intelligence and just his caliber. He didn't want to be average. He wanted to be the best, and I understand that premise vividly. But he had 18 interceptions over his career, which is a lot for a linebacker. I mean, this guy, I think he had, 2 interceptions in the Dallas game on Thanksgiving where we went all blue for the first time. Was it all teal, whatever they call it? Oh my gosh, he was simply amazing. He was simply amazing in that game, and he brought one back for 6, I think. Yeah, he brought one back for a touchdown. May have been. I was thinking, I knew he brought one back. I didn't know if he brought 2 back. And just simply amazing, guys. And I'm sorry, I'm looking at the stats right here. That was his lone touchdown of his career. Luke Kuechly is just one of those guys that he quietly did his work and went about his business. I knew when he walked away from the game that only hardcore Carolina Panther fans were going to appreciate him. Not many people appreciated him outside of Charlotte. You had a few announcers that knew just how explosive and dynamic he was on the defensive side of the ball outside in the NFL. Coaches knew it. Drew Brees knew it. And honestly, I do think it's a little bit poetic that they both go in the Hall of Fame at the same time, especially considering that massive game that took place. And these guys didn't just have that battle. They had many more battles. When you think about that epic showdown between those two, when Drew Brees is one of those guys, he consistently changes the play when he sees something or if he sees something wrong. Guys, if you can find it on YouTube, I only found some highlights, and it wasn't where I could actually watch those two diagnosing each other and just absolutely countering each other. I mean, it was just absolutely amazing. I remember it like it was yesterday because it was so much fun, and you heard Al Michaels, and I don't remember who it was on the call. Might have been Chris Collins were making the call, and it was just so funny how they were commentating it. He's changing the play again. And it's amazing. It'll be a long time before we see another Luke Kuechly. It will. And he was so dedicated to watching film. And when you see him in some of the interviews, I remember a couple on NFL Today or whatever shows he would do before the games and whatnot. And he would just break down how he watched film. He said he would watch from the wide receivers to wide receivers. He would go every single position. Now, I know a lot of y'all would say, well, yeah, duh. He would say things like their stance and if it was motion or this, that, and the other, certain splits. I mean, it was just amazing how he had it broken down into what play this is going to be or how their tendencies were. I'm like, this dude don't do nothing all week. I mean, it's like, okay, game's over. Give me an ice pack. Give me the film on the next team.
You want answers? I want the truth.
And it's like, all right, we got, was it Monday? They do the film watch, or the Sunday they do the film watch on their mistakes. Then they come in and they have a practice on, was it Wednesday? I think it is. It's Monday or Tuesday. I think it's Tuesday. But then you do all of this in 3 days. Then you get to the first practice. Practicing for this week. So I'm just grateful that Luke is finally in there. And I know people are going to say, well, it only took 2 years. He should have been a first ballot. That's right. Should have been a first ballot. And he is the second youngest and should have been the youngest to be inducted. No disrespect to Gale Sayers. I just think that, Gale was great. I didn't get to see him in person, But I did see the highlights, and he's one of the greatest. But I thought Luke Kuechly, the way he was able to make the game on defense so much more fun to watch, well, at least in my eyes, he should have gotten that accolade. And I think there are going to be some serious changes to the HOF, and it shouldn't just be because of the Belichick and, Kraft snub and whatnot, but there needs to be some changes to the point. Made exceptions for certain guys, understanding what not only the sentiment means, because Kuechly should have been a first ballot. If Roy Lewis was a first ballot, Luke Kuechly damn sure should have been a first ballot. Because Luke Kuechly obviously was the effing man on that Carolina Panther defense for 8 seasons. And we owe him the greatest growl out that we could ever give him. And now I need you guys to stick around so that you can find out how Lumavita can make you the effing man. Lumavita presents Real Men of Genius. Today, we salute you, Mr. Smells Like You Just Wrestled a Bear guy. Others run from skincare. You grab it by the jar, stare it down, and say, moisturize this. While other men settle for lotion that smells like their grandma's guest bathroom. You reach for TF Man. Whipped tallow cream forged from beef fat, testosterone, and destiny. Because dry skin isn't a seasonal concern to you. It's a challenge. And TF Man is your war paint. Your elbows, sandpaper. Your knuckles, granite. Your face looks like it's been through 3 divorces and a chainsaw. But with one swipe of TF Man, boom! Hydrated, smooth, and touchable. Suddenly, the wife stops glaring, the girlfriend forgives you, and the mother-in-law finally says something nice. So crack open a jar, you rugged warrior, because thanks to you and Lumavita's TF Man, your face can finally stop screaming. TF Man Whipped Cream Tallow. For skin tougher than your childhood. Moisture for men who don't moisturize. Yo guys. Tenaroa McMillan has not only made us proud, but he's showing the world as to why he was the effing man. Now, many of you know that he came away from awards night named the Offensive Rookie of the Year. Now, I shudder at that thought because he wasn't unanimous. I get it. Tyler Shough had a strong run, but he should have been unanimous. I get it that when you really break down guys like Emeka Egbuka's season and guys like Tyler Shough's, it's not a runaway, but you didn't hear quite as much out of Emeka Egbuka, after Mike Evans and so came back. Now, I'm not saying that should mean anything, but then Tyler Shough, on the other hand, yes, he did do a great job bringing back a New Orleans team that was left for dead. But Tenaroa McMillan he excited things. He made excitement. He really did. And realistically, I thought Dave Canellis did a great job showcasing him, getting him out there so people could watch and really see, okay, this is what the Carolina Panthers were looking at. But I also look at it from a standpoint of, yes, he's talented, but if we don't use him to develop other players around him and something happens, where are you going to be left? Just food for thought. Yes, T-Mac was absolutely brilliant this past season, and there's no doubting that. I think ultimately, catching 70 balls for over 1,000 yards, which was 14th in the National Football League. He had 7 touchdowns receptions, and that was 15th, tied. And then he was tied for 21st. He was 21st with a 14.5 average.
God damn!
This is amongst everybody. This ain't amongst rookies. And when you really start to break down what T-Mac was able to do, and then you hear, I ain't forgot, y'all. I didn't forget that his laziness and his commitment to football talk. You see, the problem I have with so many is this could have came from the Carolina Panthers. Who knows? But we heard rumors that his work ethic, his heart wasn't tied into football, and he was this, he was X, he was Y, he was Z. He wasn't as fast. His hands weren't. He's got to work with drops, which we saw. But even he himself said, I've got to work on that. I can be better. I can be better. So, Offensive Rookie of the Year, and there's more left in the bag of tricks, I can't wait. I really can't wait. We just need Dave Canellis to understand that there needs to be other guys that are contributing. You got a guy in Jalen Coker. You got a guy at Xavier Legette that you are not developing. Let's not let this be a Steve Kerr, Jonathan Kuminga issue. I'm a Warriors fan, just in case you guys know. Well, really, I'm a Steph Curry fan. That was just a Charlotte reference, you guys. Now, I love Steph Curry for real. But, guys, you cannot have talent on your roster and continue to waste it. And fans, y'all got to stop buying into the fact that these guys got to step up. You can't step up if you ain't got a step to step on. Coaches have to give you the opportunity. And I'm going to keep using this reference because it's one in our division. Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts is the perfect example of when Drake London went out. That's when they went to Kyle Pitts. Guys, there are talented guys on this roster. We don't need to necessarily part ways, whether it's our tight end room or our wide receiver room. And I'm going to keep harping on that. Yes, we got the Offensive Rookie of the Year. But guess what? Team's going to be waiting on him now. They're going to game plan to stop him. But there is a plus to that. If Dave Canellis can come up with a more creative game plan for us to run the football and then get other guys involved, good things will happen. I'm not for us going out there getting another wide receiver. But there are 2 tempting guys out there that I would like us. If they're there and we don't need what we need, and they're there, which I doubt they will be, I would love for us to go get them. But big congrats to Luke Kuechly, T-Mac. I look to see more because this kid's 22. He'll be 23 in April. And guys, I'm going to tell you, I'm excited. But guys, let me know what you think down in the comments. If you are happy that one Luke Kuechly finally got in, give a thumbs up down in the comments. If you're one that thought he should have been a first ballot Hall of Famer, put 1 down in the comments. Number 3, if you're happy, ecstatic, or indifferent about Tetairoa McMillan winning the Rookie of the Year, put your comment down below. Put a question mark. If you think T-Mac should have won the Offensive Rookie of the Year, put check mark. But make sure you thumbs up the show if you like the show. Secondly, make sure if you subscribe to the show, put your name down in the comments. And lastly, make sure that you hit that bell notification so that you can get all of our content as it drops. And make sure you go over to our Facebook group, Growlin' and Prowlin', as well as the as the Facebook page, Growling and Prowling. Finally, make sure you go over to Instagram at Mr. CeeLo so you can keep up with all of our in-season shenanigans that I will be caught up in. But until the next time, don't forget to leave your mark while prowling the airwaves and growling out. Keep pounding!